Here is the atom, a system of perfect, fundamental order. But what happens when you disturb its core? You get a chain reaction. You get chaos.
History, Peter, is no different. In 1914, the world was a masterpiece of Victorian engineering. It was a clockwork of empires, treaties, and global trade.
Professor, it's like everyone spent 40 years building a specific cage, and then acted surprised when they got stuck in it. Why did they feel the need to script the first 30 days of a war so perfectly?
Because, Peter, in the ordered world of the 19th century, uncertainty was considered a defeat. To not have a plan was to not be a great power. But each plan was a reaction to a specific trauma or a specific nightmare. Germany's story is one of geographic claustrophobia. Ever since they became a unified nation in 1871, they looked at the map and saw a trap. France to the west, Russia to the east. Count Alfred von Schlieffen was a man who didn't believe in luck. He believed in ratios. He spent his life calculating how to win a war against two giants. His solution was the Great Swing. He decided that Russia would be slow to wake up, the slow giant. So Germany had to knock France out in a lightning strike.
So the order here was speed. They were so afraid of a slow war that they built a plan that demanded they invade a neutral country, like Belgium, just to save time. They sacrificed their global reputation for a 42-day clock.
Now look at France. Their story is one of wounded pride. In 1870, they lost a war to Germany and lost their provinces of Alsace and Lorraine. For 40 years, French school children looked at maps where those provinces were colored in black, the black stain. Their plan, Plan 17, wasn't about math. It was about spirit. General Joffre believed that the order of the French army was its attack à outrance, attack to the excess.
Wait, so while Germany is doing high-level calculus about train speeds, France is basically just planning a giant, emotional charge to take back their lost land?
Exactly. It was a plan of pure ego. They ignored the fact that modern rifles would shred a man in a red uniform. They chose glory over physics. Then there is Russia. Their story is the struggle of scale. Russia was a giant with a weak heart. They had millions of soldiers, but their order was sabotaged by their own size. Plan 19 was written by General Danilov. He realized that if Russia took too long to mobilize, Germany would win in the West and then turn its full might on Russia.
So they were the opposite of Germany. Germany was rushing because they were small and surrounded. Russia was rushing because they were huge and slow.
Precisely. Plan 19 forced Russia to start moving its steamroller before it was even fully fueled. They pushed their men into battle without boots, sometimes without rifles, just to keep the order of the alliance alive.
This explains everything. These plans were the electrons spinning in their fixed orbits. Everyone had their path. Germany swings, France charges, Russia rolls. As long as they all stayed in their orbits, the atom of Europe stayed stable. But the moment the Sarajevo neutron hit, the electrons didn't just move. They collided.
And when ordered systems collide at that speed, Peter, they don't just break. They fission. The energy released in that first month of 1914 was more than the world was prepared to handle.
Professor, we have the German math, the French ego, and the Russian scale. That's a lot of order. But if the system was so perfect, why did it all start in a place most people couldn't find on a map?
Because every machine has a weak point, Peter. In 1914, that was the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Think of it as a plum-pudding empire that had gone sour. It was a massive, multi-ethnic order, held together by a single 84-year-old emperor, Franz Joseph. It contained 11 different major nationalities, all of whom wanted their own order.
So it wasn't a solid block. It was more like a chemical compound that was ready to separate.
Precisely. Their plan was simply survival. They were terrified that if one piece, like Serbia, broke away, the whole empire would dissolve. They weren't planning for glory, they were planning to keep the lights on. And they knew they couldn't do it without Germany.
And what about Britain? They had the biggest empire in the world. Surely they had a master plan too?
That's the irony, Peter. Britain's order was ambiguity. They didn't have a rigid land plan like the Schlieffen plan. They had a wait-and-see policy. Because Britain didn't say clearly, if you attack France, we will fight you, Germany assumed the British would stay neutral. The order of the machine was missing a crucial sensor. Germany was flying blind.
This is the terrifying part. You have 3 countries with plans so rigid they can't be stopped. One country, Austria, that's falling apart, and one country, Britain, that won't say what it's doing. So the stage is set. The order is actually a trap. All it needs is a catalyst.
Exactly. Like the atom, Europe had become an unstable isotope. The order of the 19th century was the binding energy holding it all together, but the nucleus was vibrating with too much pressure. It had reached its limit. The world wasn't just ready for a shock, Peter, it was physically incapable of staying whole. It was waiting for the first collision to trigger the decay.
Enter Sarajevo.
On June 28, 1914, the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to that rusted Austro-Hungarian throne, decides to visit a city that hates him. And he does it on the anniversary of Serbia's greatest national defeat.
Wait, he went into a hostile city on their most sensitive holiday in an open-top car?
It was the orderly thing to do, Peter. He wanted to show he was in control. It was the ultimate triumph of imperial order over common sense.
Okay, the shots are fired. The Archduke is dead. In a normal world, that's a local tragedy. But in the 1914 world of atomic order, this is where the chain reaction begins. What happens the next day?
The next day, Peter, nothing happens. At least not on the surface. This is the July crisis. For 1 month, the diplomats tried to use the orderly systems of the 19th century to stop the chaos of the 20th. Austria-Hungary wants to crush Serbia, but they're afraid of Russia. So they ask Germany for support. Germany gives them what historians call the blank check.
A blank check? Like, do whatever you want, we have your back. That sounds like the opposite of order. That sounds like a dare.
It was a gamble. Germany's order was based on the belief that if they looked strong enough, Russia would back down. But remember Plan 19? Russia couldn't back down without appearing weak. By late July, the control rods are being pulled out of the reactor.
So the control rods are out. The reaction is critical. At what point does the order finally break? When do the trains actually start moving?
It happens in the first days of August. This is the moment the master plans we discussed earlier took over the world. In Germany, the Kaiser had a momentary panic. He asked General Moltke if they could just fight Russia and stop the invasion of France. He wanted to hit the emergency stop button.
And could he? He's the Kaiser. He owns the trains.
Moltke told him it was impossible. He said, "Your Majesty, it cannot be done. The deployment of millions cannot be improvised." The order of the railway timetable was now more powerful than the man who wore the crown. On August 1st, Germany mobilized. On August 3rd, they invaded Belgium. The great swing of the Schlieffen plan had begun.
And because Germany swung through Belgium, Britain, the missing gear, finally clicked into place. They declared war to protect Belgian neutrality. The entire atomic structure of Europe just collapsed. It's haunting, Professor. They spent 40 years building a perfect system. They thought their plans, their treaties, and their schedules would keep them safe. But all they really did was ensure that when one piece fell, everything fell.
That is the tragedy of 1914, Peter. They mistook rigidity for stability. They built a world of glass and were surprised when it shattered. As the first trains left Berlin, Paris, and London, a British statesman named Edward Grey looked out his window and said, "The lamps are going out all over Europe. We shall not see them lit again in our lifetime."
The order was gone.
And the chaos had only just begun.
It's a sobering reminder that the most ordered systems are often the most fragile. If you want to see the fallout of that shattered world, and how the chaos of 1914 eventually triggered an even larger explosion, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe.